Hi, everyone.
Hi there.
Today is your day to,
Party with your old self.
yes, party with your old self.
So often we think about should we talk about who we are first?
Oh, right.
Right, yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, maybe. I'm Dr. Saira, and I'm a transpersonal psychotherapist.
And I'm Jena and and I am a couples therapist, a law of attraction coach, and a happiness coach.
Happiness, all of it. She's going to fix every area of your life.
As long as you are willing and come in committed.
Right.
Because that's all it takes, right? It's
That's all
just
it
commitment.
takes. So many times people say, oh, I need to change my life, but then they don't really
Want to. Or, yeah.
I actually want other people in my life to change. I don't want to change.
Well, that was me a few years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you can relate to that too.
So we're going to meet the old Jena. Ready? We're going to party with the old Jena for a few minutes.
Yeah, let's party with the old Jena. She was fun.
Okay.
She was lots of fun. She
Tell
was a
us about
blamer.
her. She was a blamer?
Oh, she was a blamer.
Oh.
So when I was younger, I'd say as little as 2 to 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I was miserable most of the time, and I thought that it was everyone else's fault.
Mm-hmm.
And I had actually limited my life so much that I had moved away for my partner's work. I wasn't really in contact with my family. I had lost touch with all of my friends. And I was just sort of in my own bubble. I made friends there. We were living in Saskatoon. I made friends there. But I had really limited my life so that I wasn't doing the things that made me feel full and fun and full of life. You know
Okay,
what I mean?
but why? Why do we do that?
Well, I did it because I didn't think I had another option. So I thought that I'm miserable in Vancouver. So maybe what I need to do...
What? In this beautiful rainy town? How could you be miserable here?
So I
It's
thought
the
maybe...
happiest place on earth besides Disney World.
I thought maybe what I need to do is move away, right? I didn't like my friends, so I thought I just need new friends. I didn't like my partner, so I was like, let me get a new partner. So I kept on changing all of these things in my life, thinking that that would solve the problem, when the problem wasn't everything else. The problem was how I felt about myself, right? And when I didn't value myself, there was no way that I could create a life where I was surrounded by people who valued me. But even if they were valuing me, I wouldn't notice because I wasn't valuing myself.
And that's the thing is, I think when you're in it, you think it's the best thing to do. It's like, well, I don't like it here. I don't like my life here. Let me just get up and move.
Exactly.
I've done that, right? Just get up and move and maybe everything will be better.
Exactly.
And the thing that we forget is you actually have to take yourself with you.
Yeah. Right? Unfortunately.
So annoying. Like, oh, I'm here at the new location and I feel the same way. What? And you might feel good for a little, I know for myself. After a move, you feel good for a while.
Yeah.
I get really busy, decorating the new house and kind of doing all that.
You distract yourself.
Yeah, and then you settle in and it's like,
you still have your same old thoughts and your same old
And then you know what I
beliefs
used to do? Move again.
Yeah.
We moved 14 times in 10 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's one way of doing it.
Oh, yeah. In the last 10 years, I've lived in Montreal, the Dominican Republic, Saskatoon, Oakville, Vancouver a couple times in there too. Just all around.
Mm-hmm.
Just going.
And did it work?
Are you kidding me?
Totally doesn't work, right?
It doesn't work.
Right. So what works?
So
what worked? What actually worked for you?
So what worked for me was when I moved back here and I kind of gave up my old life again, I took a very different approach. I took the same approach that I took actually when I was a kid, when I first moved to Canada. So when I first moved to Canada from Atlanta, Georgia, what I decided to do was to be the person that I really wanted to be and completely reinvent myself and focus on being really happy, really cheerful, really friendly, and bringing people in because that's what I wanted. Right?
So what did you call that as a kid? Because I'm sure as a kid you didn't think, what was it? What was your goal as a child? You said,
I'm going to be popular.
Popular. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. And I said, I'm American, so I'm sure all these Canadians will love me. They don't.
We love our American brothers and sisters.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I
Sometimes.
We
hate you.
I know.
We love to hate you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm Canadian now, so I totally get it.
So that's the old you.
That was the old American me. So I said I'm going to be popular, but this time, as a 29-year-old instead of a 14-year-old, I said to myself, I am just going to focus on happiness because I've missed out on happiness for so long, and now's my chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I just put happiness above everything else. And that's when things started really happening for me. And that's when, I could say that from the time, even just 6 months ago, from 6 months ago, things have changed drastically just in what I value, what I prioritize, the way I speak to people, the way I speak to myself. Things are
what you speak about.
Exactly.
Right.
My whole world has completely opened up. And I don't feel restricted anymore. I don't feel like I need to run away to feel happy. I know that if I can feel happy, I can be free no matter where I am.
So what you're saying and what we're saying is that a choice on how you want to feel is the most critical choice you're going to make.
Exactly.
Because that will then inform all your other choices. An external choice like moving your job or moving your house or moving your, getting rid of this friend or adding this friend isn't what actually makes the difference.
Exactly.
It's the inner state that makes the difference.
Yeah. Tell me about your old self.
Oh my gosh. Where do we even start? Do you know I used to have like long hair? Sometimes it was even curly. Ooh. It was like as long as yours. Yeah. There was an old Saira. Like, how many years back are we going?
However far back you think is.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Okay, let me think of, if I think like kind of recently far back, I'd say about a year ago. Okay, so we're in the fall of 2016, so I think about the fall of 2015. Yeah? Then there's like the way, way older. We could talk about her later. So a year ago, and so just to show you like how short of a time like everything has changed. I was telling you this earlier, Jena, that I felt really trapped. Right? My kid was just starting grade 1. So I was just doing the whole like school was this my daughter was in preschool, my son was in school. So I'd be like, I have to be at school a certain time so everybody's on time. I have to pick up a certain time so everybody's on time. I have to make lunches. I have to, make sure that they're organized. I have to go to these like parent things, like parent teacher interviews. And I was just feeling really, really trapped. And I was feeling like I was doing it all on my own, that nobody understood me, that everybody else had a better life than me. So I felt like I'd look at other people who were parents and I'd be like, oh, well, you have it easy because, you're a full-time mom, so you don't have to worry about working. Or I'd look at other moms and I'd be like, well, you have it easy because you're a full-time worker, and so daycare looks after your kids, so you have it easy. So I was like totally comparing myself and feeling like I had the worst end of the stick as a full-time mom and a part-time working entrepreneur. And I just felt like it was hard. And I was complaining a lot, right? Not really to other people because I still liked people to think I had all my shit together, but in my own mind, I was complaining a lot. And to people who really knew me, I was complaining. Yeah. I was, what else? I couldn't really see a future or a vision for myself. I felt like I was just kind of going through the motions, like, oh, here's another year and another year and another year. And I didn't really have clear goals, like for my business or for my family, or like I didn't even know, for example, how many holidays I wanted to take within the next 12 months. I had no idea. Yeah. I was just kind of going through the motions. And so I didn't really know what it was going to require to have my dreams come true because I wasn't even thinking about dreams. I was just kind of in this rut. So that's where I was a year ago.
So do you think that if you had set goals, it would have been different? Or like, what do you think?
So actually, that's what started. That's how it changed for me. Yeah. Is how it started was that I actually did something that completely different that I'd never done before, which was put myself in uncomfortable situations. So put myself in situations that stretched me a little bit. So last year for Halloween, I asked my cousin, who she's kind of a distant cousin, and we hadn't really spent much time together. But I just asked her. I said, "Can my kids come trick or treating with your kids?" So that was actually just a year ago, right? Yesterday, and we went trick or treating, and it was it was fun enough, and like I was expecting like we'd hang out after and have hot chocolate, but like her kids were tired, my kids were tired, we went home. But what it did was it took me to a different neighborhood. I got to chat and kind of get to know my cousin a little bit better, and it kind of put me out of my comfort zone. I didn't just like do my little neighborhood trick or treating, right? I went outside my comfort zone. Then another thing I did outside my comfort zone was I invited my in-laws to come for Christmas. And so I did like this big Christmas spread, and I invited my in-laws, and we had a really, really great time. And for those of us from like big extended family systems, in-laws can be, hit or miss. Sometimes you could have really loving, connected relationships. Sometimes it can be kind of a power struggle, but it was really, really fun. And so Christmas for me, like doing something that was going to take a lot of effort and a lot of work. But when I was buying my Christmas decorations, I kept thinking, like, if money was not an issue, what would I want in my Christmas decorations? Because I got to start from scratch. Yeah. And so I invested in a few like really incredibly beautiful pieces, and then dollar store stuff, and mixed it all in. And it looks like, you'll see at Christmas time, you'll see how beautiful everything looks, right? It's just glamorous. And I just started thinking, if if I didn't have these self-imposed limitations, if money wasn't an issue, if my kids weren't an issue, what kind of a life would I be living? And I just started doing that.
So what caused you to start thinking that? Like, what was
Because I
kind of the
felt
shift?
shitty.
Yeah, so you
That's
just
it.
wanted to feel better.
I just wanted to feel better. It
Totally.
wasn't like there was some like beacon. And so then and I talk about goal setting. So the next big change for me was these workbooks that I always talk about, right? So I got these workbooks. Leonie Dawson puts out these workbooks every year, and I started filling in the workbooks. And it was, for me, it was like a dream journal. Like, I did not expect myself to get through half of the stuff in that book. I was just like, if I could dream, what would I dream my life would be like? And here I am, you know, the workbook started in January, like, you know, beginning of the year. And here I am, 9 months later, living the vision, or 10 months later, living exactly what's in those books.
So it took 10 months.
And that's not very long.
Not very long.
No.
Are you?
And I would say it took less than that. I think it took like to the summer. Like it took about 6 months of just concentrating on what I want and stop complaining about what I don't want.
Yeah.
That was the shift. And you know, we talk about, so Abraham Hicks talks about the contrast, right? When things are really bad and it feels really shitty, that's actually a great indicator of what you don't want. And that's kind of what made me shift, is that I just felt blah. Like I just didn't feel excited.
You either have focused on the bad stuff and kept on feeling blah, 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 and just kept focusing on it and it would get bigger, or you could decide that you're done with feeling blah and you want to feel amazing.
And the thing is, my life didn't really change that much.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm still seeing clients, I'm still giving talks, I'm still doing trainings, I'm still doing all the things I always did. I'm still going to the parent teacher interviews, I'm still waking up to take my kids to school and make lunches. I'm doing all of that. But how I feel about all that is completely different.
It's got a different flavor.
It's a different flavor. So now when I'm making lunches, I'm like, like what will the kids eat tomorrow? Like it's a different space. And like, oh, again, I gotta make a lunch, right? Like when I go grocery shopping, I'm like, ooh, I wonder what we'll put in there that's healthy but still tasty. And like it's a challenge. It's not like, laundry was like that for me, right? So up until about maybe 2 months ago, I was like, I hated laundry. I like post pictures on Instagram and Facebook of my piles of laundry. Hoping people would feel sorry for me for how much laundry I have. But, you know, we all have laundry, right? Yeah. And so now I'm just listening to, like, inspirational, like, talks while I fold laundry. Yeah. And laundry is not a big deal anymore.
Totally. So the shift itself didn't take long, right? It's mostly just preparing yourself to be okay with the shift when it happens. For me, it was about a 3-month process as well. It was like, yeah, I was preparing. I kind of knew that things needed to change. And then they started to change, and then I started to be okay with the fact that things were changing. And then it was like, bam. And then 3 months of like intensive work and still going. And I feel so different now than I ever have. Ever. Because before, even when I was a kid and I moved here and I wanted to be popular and everything fell into place for like 6 months or a year, that was great. But that was all by default, right? That was just like, oh, I want something to happen. It happened. Then we moved again. Didn't happen because I wasn't thinking about it, paying attention to it. Then we moved again, still didn't happen. So it was all by default. I couldn't reproduce it. I couldn't replicate it. Right? So now we know that if you decide what you want and you really focus on how you're feeling, and if you know that happiness is the point and you feel happy first, you can replicate that every single day. And every day it keeps getting better and better and better, right? So today I feel better than I did last week when we taped. You know what I mean? Like it just has gotten steadily better.
I think back to when I went to do my master's program, right? So you know how for many of us, like university is like such a great time, right? Like we have so much fun. And I think for me it was because it was a chance to reinvent myself. So my undergrad totally reinvented myself into this like amazingly heartbroken. I went in like so happy and I came out so sad, right? Like just, you know, first love and like all that stuff happened in my undergrad degree. I had a lot of cool experiences, but that was kind of like when I think about university, my undergrad, like there's this like underlying heartache that was infused in there. Then I went to do my master's program. And what I loved about that program is I was around a lot of people who were much older than me. I was actually one of the youngest people in the class. And so they were like 10 years older or older than that. And it was my master's and my PhD, and, you know, the people in that program, they just loved me. Whatever I was showing up as. If I was showing up as, like, the hip-hop dance girl, that, like, I came with, like, bandana, can you imagine me? I totally was. I was, like, baggy jeans, like, my bandana, I was, like, yo, 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 and that's how I showed up. That's what it was, and that's what I showed up as, and they're like, all right, let's dance with you. And then sometimes I realized like that's not really me. And I kind of like found, wiggled around and trying to figure it out. And what I realized is that I was a very deeply emotional person and a deeply creative person. And I'd never really allowed that because my focus had always been school and academics and doing well and being good and being respectful and respectable and all of that. And I found this other side of me, and they really like celebrated that with me, these new friends. And it was like an awakening for me, right? Like a real awakening to, there's this whole other way of being in the world that has nothing to do with achievement and accomplishment, right? Just about like connection and like search and friendship and not about that other stuff. So I feel like, along the way I've picked up little things, and I'm sure, in my 50s and 60s I'll look back on this time and say, oh, ha 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 ha, remember when we were doing our show, ha 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 ha, right? We'll think of it so sweetly. And I think, so when we look back, it would be easy to look at the places I failed and then beat myself up for it, and sometimes I still do that, like in the car when I'm listening to music. Oh my gosh, and then I think of like all the heartbreak, and then I have to remind myself, like, okay, but what now? Like, you can think about the past and put my vision back there and like beat myself up for things that are not going to change because it's the past, you can't change it. Or I could think about, okay, now what? Now where am I moving to? It's hard to do.
It's hard to do, and what might help is if you think about the past and think about all of the times when you felt like you were at your very best. And so I know for me, when I was moving around to a lot of different places and I was reinventing myself, the times when I felt like I was at my very best were the times when I was in that space of being genuinely happy and meeting people and connecting with them. So like when I moved here, I started going to this ping pong every week at our community center. And I was meeting all these people and I was really connecting with them, and I felt so like myself, and it was the same when I moved to Canada, and I was meeting all these people and I just felt like myself. And it's the same when I'm around animals, right? Like I feel like myself. There's certain times in my life where I can pinpoint exactly, okay, during those times, I was at my very best. And when I think about those times, I think about what was going on for me. And what was going on for me is that I was just allowing myself to be. I took the pressure off of myself and I was living in the moment, right? So if you think about that for yourself, you might think, okay, well, the times when I felt the best were when I was working out, maybe, or when I was, baking cookies, or when whatever the case may be.
And for
right?
me, and sometimes I feel guilty about this, but for me, the times that I felt the best are when I'm like have an audience and I'm the shining star.
Perfect.
But for me, like, and we've had this conversation, right? Like, it's a bit embarrassing because it's like, oh no, but you should be humble, and like, you shouldn't want that. You shouldn't want to be famous. You shouldn't want like people looking at you. But I actually really love it. Like, I remember my grade 12 graduation, I wore this like incredible, oh my gosh, it was incredible. Like, I felt like a princess, and my hair was like, woo, like so amazing. I was like a little crown, and I remember like walking and like holding up my dress and like walking, and I had like an entourage because my 13 cousins all attended grad with me. And I had 2 dates. So like 15 of us, like 2 tables, and then all my family, like my parents and my aunts and uncles. So we had like 20 people at my good. So I was like in the front, like entourage, and I remember feeling like on top of the world, right? And then as I grew older, and I felt like, oh, that's not a good thing to want, right? Because that's like vain, and like Kim Kardashian should not be your goal. Just like an entourage walking around looking beautiful, like that's all I want to do, right?
So now if you think about that and you take away the judgment,
right?
And you just think that every person wants different things for a reason, because we're all put on earth for a different reason and a different purpose. So if you think that what you're passionate about is really your purpose, and you become very okay with that, what does that change for you?
Because then life becomes more exciting, right? There's more possibilities then. There's like potential that didn't have to just be one isolated memory in my entire life, that life could just be like that.
What if life was just like that? Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be awesome. Like I could just have an entourage.
You pretty much do, your kids.
Yeah, that's true. They pretty much love me and follow me everywhere. I could think of them as my entourage. That's a good one. Oh man,
yeah.
That's funny.
Doesn't life take on a different flavor when you allow yourself to be passionate about the things that you are passionate about without putting judgment on it?
Right.
Why judge?
Or just like writing or reading in a corner, or like you said, baking cookies. Like I feel alive, and happy and content. So I guess what we're saying too is that there could be different things in your life that bring you joy.
Oh, there
Right?
can be multiple things in your life.
Hopefully there are, right?
Yeah.
More than just one thing.
And if you're focusing on doing those joyful activities just for a little while, like take a week and decide that you're only going to do things that make you feel good. Cancel some of your appointments. You've all been sick for a week. It's okay. You're allowed to say no for 1 week. Cancel your appointments. Do what feels really good and see what happens. Like your life takes on a totally different flavor. And that's what I've done the last 3 months is I still do the things that I said I'm going to do. But now the things that are coming to me, the opportunities that are coming are ones that I really want to do. And when I'm doing something that maybe I felt hesitant about, but I'm putting that whole like joyful, purposeful intent on it, when I'm intending to just have a good time no matter what, I feel amazing after it's done and throughout the whole process. So it's never like I go into something, I dread going there, I hate it every second of it, and I leave and that's it. It's like I go in, I intend to have a good time. Even if I struggle a little bit, at the end of the day, I'm still having a good time. I leave and I still feel good, right? So it's like even things that you may not want to do, you can still do and feel good.
Did I tell you about the Zumba thing?
I don't know which
on Saturday.
Oh no, he went,
maybe over the phone.
Okay.
I don't know. I talked to Jena a lot in my own mind, and then I don't know if I actually said it out loud or just in my. Okay, so Saturday. So I had this wicked week of like working out and going to the gym and trying new classes. So much fun. And then it was hard.
Yeah.
And so every time it was hard, I was like, well, you know what? On Saturday, I'm going to get my Zumba class. That's my favorite teacher. And it's going to all be worth it. All this struggle and this pain is going to be worth it for Saturday. So I get in on Saturday, so excited. Different teacher. And I was like,
oh, man.
So the first song, I like half-heartedly, like, danced along. I was like, oh, God. And then I got this like voice in my head that said, look, Saira, you're here. Either leave or stay and have fun. But don't stay here if you're going to be miserable.
Wow.
I know. So then I was like, oh, that's true. I have a choice. I could walk out right now if I want.
Yeah. You always have a choice.
And so then I said, okay, well, I want to stay because I like this class. And I'm just going to have fun. And then, so she was dancing and she was, completely like, I didn't know any of the moves because a new teacher. But I was like, you know what? I'm on the beach with a bunch of like beautiful Cuban men and we're just dancing. And sorry, face. I always have Cuban men in my fantasies of dancing. So we went to Cuba for our honeymoon, and there's a lot of that going on. So, and my husband can kind of maybe pass for Cuban.
He's there too,
possibly.
He's in these fantasies
somewhere
as well.
He's one of the entourage. So yeah, and I was just like having a really good time in my own head.
Yeah.
And I could have been like the whole hour been spent being disappointed, but I was like, no, I'm not going to do that to myself
because you value how you feel.
Right.
And when you don't realize the importance of how you feel, like when you haven't done, so Saira and I do a lot of work where we're really thinking about how do we create the lives that we want, right? And through thinking about how we create that life, we've come to realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at least this is from my own perspective, I've come to realize that the most important thing is how I feel, because the only reason that I ever want anything is because I think it'll make me happy, right? So now we realize that if we're happy first, then no matter what happens, we get to decide, am I going to stay happy or am I going to let this get me down? Am I going to stay happy or am I going to let this get me down? And then things start to come into your experience that make you even happier because your predominant emotion is happiness. So you're just attracting those types of things to you.
And sometimes shitty things happen and you don't feel happy, right? You just feel bad. Yeah. Like I got a brand new car. I'm going to divulge something here that I haven't told my husband. I should probably tell him this right away.
Yeah.
So we were driving, and you know how you park, and there's like one of those things, and I just say, like the second day of the brand new car, and it's like underneath, so you can't see it.
Yeah.
But it's there. Like I felt underneath, and there's a scratch.
Yeah.
And I was like, a shitty thing just happened, right? There's a shitty thing.
It's a shitty thing.
And sometimes shitty things happen, and then I felt bad for a bit, and then I was like, well, at least it's in a place where no one can see it.
Exactly.
And that's the first good thought that I had about it, right? And then and now I'm like, oh, I guess I better tell someone else who owns the car with me that happened.
You're so right. Shitty things do happen.
Right.
But you could have let that get you down for the rest of the day and had a miserable day. And we've all been there where something has happened and the rest of our day is miserable. Or you can say, this shitty thing happened. It's going to be okay. Not a big deal. It's just a car.
Right.
Move on. Right? And still be happy.
And sometimes bigger shitty things happen. Like someone breaks up with you or somebody passes away, or
Mhm.
you know, you're late at paying your bills. Like things happen, but it's again, it's how can you find the one thought that's going to make you feel just a little bit better in that moment, just a little bit of relief from the pain, right? And
Yeah.
if you can find that one thought that makes you feel just a little bit better, like we've been having some financial stuff come up with us lately, right? And I keep thinking, but you know, I live in a country where I'm never going to be homeless. I
Mhm.
know that, right?
Mhm.
Because that will never happen to me in this country. So no matter how bad things get, even in the worst case scenario, it's still going to be manageable. Because
Yeah.
you know our minds do that, right? It's like you're like over, like for me it was that we went over on our Visa card and we like had like a certain amount of time to pay it down. We're like, oh, the panic, the it's like $100. Like
Yeah.
it's not a big deal, but in our minds it like became this whole thing, and like we were like spinning, my husband and I, and then I'm like, wait a minute, what's the worst case scenario? Okay, our credit is ruined and we go bankrupt. Okay, but then what's the worst case scenario? Oh, we won't have anywhere to live. Actually, we will, because we'll just rent somewhere,
Mhm.
right? It's going to be okay. So it's like when we walk all the way through those worst case scenarios, for me, that's a way of helping me get to a more positive thought,
Right.
right? To be like, okay, so then what if that happened? Oh, but then then what if that happened? Oh, then I just do this. And at the end of the day, I realize that I'm going to be okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and that's a really good technique for figuring out that things don't need to feel so hard,
Mm-hmm.
because we're never given more than we can handle. And another thing that you could also do, which is what I tend to do because I'm a ruminator. So if I get one bad situation in my mind, I will think about it till the cows come home. Like that's going to be,
So how do you
like, I never really walk my way through it. I just kind of
Just
stay
spin
there. So what I do is I have to just reassure myself, because I know that when I believe something to be true, it is true. Like that's been my experience for my whole life. If I believe that I'm going to be taken care of financially or otherwise, I am taken care of. Like, and that's just how it. And when I start doubting that, then suddenly I don't feel like I have the support that I've always had, right? So I know that when I believe something to be true, it's going to be true. So what I tell myself is, and for instance, I'll tell you about a personal story for me, is that I'm sorry, this looks very like sexy. It's not supposed to be there.
Sexy.
My shirt's falling off. So I'm going through a separation from my common law spouse of like a few years, and it's been a very stressful 2 years since we've broken up. And it's been like we're fighting over our house and money and all sorts of things. And we've gotten lawyers involved. And it's like really stressful. It's like I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking about it and I seize up straight away, right? So if I let myself think about what could potentially happen, say if we go to court or if I have to fly there and figure stuff out, I will get stuck there. So what I tell myself is just that the universe is always providing for me. And I always have support. And nothing ever comes into my life that I can't handle. And things are always working out beautifully for me because I know that they are.
And
Like,
these are experiences that you've actually had, right?
Where
people have come up and supported you, and you don't have that feeling of like. So that's the thing is, I think sometimes when we talk about affirmations, if there's too much of a distance between what you're saying and what you believe, it doesn't work, right?
Right.
So you have to
start
believe
small,
right.
and you grow it. But what I did is because I didn't always. It's not like I just thought, oh, the universe is always providing for me, and then it just happened. It's like that wasn't really a belief of mine, but I forced it into a belief because I kept on repeating it to myself, and it felt better and better and
then you
better.
look for proof, right?
And I found proof. I didn't even really look for it, but I found it.
Yeah.
Because things just started happening, and the more I said it, and it took probably a month before it really resonated with me. But I knew that that's what I wanted to believe. I knew that I wanted to believe that I was always being provided for. And so I started to think about it. I wrote it on my phone. It actually pops up a few times a day. The universe is always providing for me. Things are always working out beautifully for us. And I just started to believe it the more that I saw it. And then things started to come into my experience that allowed me to believe it. And now if I ever have doubt, I have to just go back to that belief because I know that my beliefs are truth. Right. Your beliefs are your truth. So if you want to change your reality, you start with your beliefs.
And so from my like kind of those kind of lines for me are everything always happens for a reason, and I grow from every experience.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
So then when I say that to myself, it's like even when bad things happen, it's happening for a reason, and I'm going to grow from this experience. Exactly. And when good things happen, that even that's happening from a reason, and I get to grow from this.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. And that's the shift that we're talking about, right? It's that shift in beliefs. Because if you can change your beliefs, you can change anything.
Well, you can change your life, right? And that's what we're talking about is a year ago for us, or some time ago, we were different people because we had different beliefs.
Totally different, right? Yeah.
Look at the time.
Holy crap. That was fast.
That was so fast.
Okay,
Well, we really hope this has been useful to you.
Yeah.
We wanted to like tell you kind of what's worked for us, and hopefully, and you'll find your own path, right? You're gonna have little versions of this, maybe little versions of other things that make sense to you. But if you feel like this has been useful, please pass it along to friends and family who could benefit, who are maybe, you know, ready for that shift and or not, and just stuck and need some kind of like moral support to get them out. Yeah. So watch our other episodes, stay in touch, and we'll see you next time.
And subscribe, share, and like.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.